and opinions of Radio Al-Ansar and the Al-Ansar Foundation.
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Al-Ansar, Durban 90.4 and Petermarisburg 105.6 FM every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with Yunus Sacoor. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday, Radio Al-Ansar, keeping you informed.
खुदा ने मुझको दिया माँ तेरी दुआओं से, माँ तेरी दुआओं से मिला है जो भी मिला, माँ तेरी दुआओं से, माँ तेरी दुआओं से, माँ तेरी दुआओं से जहाँ जहाँ भी गया दिल छाने लगे, जहाँ जहाँ भी गया दिल छाने लगे, ये है तेरा मेरा माँ तेरी दुआओं से, तेरी दुआओं से, माँ तेरी दुआओं से, माँ तेरी दुआओं से, माँ की दुआ जन्नत की दुआ, जन्नत की जन्नत की जन्नत की ये कामयाबियाँ शोहरत कदम कदम पे मिली, ये कामयाबियाँ शोहरत कदम कदम पे मिली, नसीब सा मिला माँ तेरी दुआओं से, तेरी दुआओं से, माँ तेरी दुआओं से, माँ तेरी दुआओं से तवाफ मैंने किया सही तवाफ मैंने किया सही जो मैंने मेरा किया माँ तेरी दुआओं से, तेरी दुआओं से, माँ तेरी दुआओं से, माँ तेरी दुआओं से मुझे गिराने पे हासिद तुले हुए थे मगर, मुझे गिराने पे हासिद तुले हुए थे मगर, मैं दुश्मनों से बचा माँ तेरी दुआओं से तेरी दुआओं से माँ तेरी दुआओं से माँ तेरी दुआओं से कसम है इसमें उजाले का कुछ जमाल नहीं कसम है इसमें उजाले का कुछ जमाल नहीं उरूज को मिला माँ तेरी दुआओं से तेरी दुआओं से माँ तेरी दुआओं से माँ तेरी दुआओं से माँ की दुआ जन्नत की हवा माँ की दुआ जन्नत की हवा माँ की दुआ जन्नत की हवा माँ की दुआ जन्नत की हवा
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another edition of News in Focus live on Radio Ansaar International, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Peter Marisburg 105.6 FM, and audio streaming on www.alansar.org.za. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaba bikum. My name is Yunus, Sacoor, and I will be in your company for the next 2 hours. We will be interviewing our guests shortly. Today, the date is the 15th of Jumad al-Ula, 1447 AH, equivalent to the date of 5th November 2025. On tonight's show, we're going to chat about or give an update on the MKWANAZI inquest. We intended to talk about it last week. We know very well that Commissioner MKWANAZI made some serious allegations against various parties, including the Minister of Police, and there's been an inquest or a commission that was appointed to deal with the allegations, as a result of which the Minister of Police, then Minister of Police, Sensum Chunu, was taken or given special leave, and the acting police minister is Kachalia. So we will get an update on that issue. We will also do an analysis of the ETHEKWINI Municipality Debt Relief Program. We spoke briefly about it last week when Councillor Ernest Smith was in studio, but we needed to unpack because the policy was only approved last week. We will do a further analysis of the debt relief program because lots of questions are coming up from members of the public, and we know that people are in arrears with their municipal accounts through the billing system, so we'll do a further analysis on that. We're also going to chat about crumbling municipalities under spotlight. We know the president has made some serious comments on the state of municipalities throughout South Africa, and he had a special meeting with the government of national unity to look at how to deal and assist these crumbling municipalities, and to establish ways and means of getting them back to improve service delivery. And this particular development, we always know it comes during election period. We'll also talk briefly when our finance guest comes in, is that there's major investment boosts in South Africa. We know in Msunduzi municipality, which is a poorly administered municipality, still under administration. There's a lot of economic development taking place, more than 1 billion rand, but also in ETHEKWINI and other areas. So from a financial aspect, it'll be a boost in the tourism industry and the economic aspect of our country. So we'll chat on that briefly. In studio, I have guests with me, Councillor IMTIAZ. He's the founder of ETHEKWINI Sacoor, and he's representing Active Citizens Coalition. He's a councillor in ETHEKWINI municipality, and he will cover the analysis of the debt relief program and indeed touch on the state of municipalities, particularly ETHEKWINI. I also have Samuel Kennedy, a political analyst, also a civic activist, ex-councillor who's been in my program many a time, but recently he hasn't been available, but we got him in today. He'll give us an update on the MKWANAZI inquest. He'll give us an objective inquest to tell us what's happening in between the discussions that are going on. Is Parliament covering up? Is Kachalia the right man to deal with this inquest and improve the state of the South African police services? And then HASSAN MOTALA, our economist, will join us later in the program. He'll chat about all these developmental projects. We'll also link up with Honorary MP IMRAN SUBRATHIE. He's in Cape Town as we speak, and he will give us the process that the Parliament is following in dealing with this MKWANAZI inquest. They're also calling it a particular commission, and I think Samuel will chat about, like how we had the Zondo Commission. We also have another name for this commission of inquiry. It's called the Madlanga inquiry. So we will unpack this. We know very well that there's a new mayor in New York City appointed as of today, and there's a lot of sort of happiness from the residents of New York City. And I know Trump is disappointed, together with some of the Jewish lobby, in the appointment of the mayor. And if we have time, we will briefly chat about the implications of that particular appointment. We'll also chat on ETHEKWINI mayor announces significant progress in tackling water leaks and sanitation issues. I think after we chat about the debt relief program, IMTIAZ will give us some kind of indication on whether the mayor is really real about those issues. Let me just welcome our guests, and then we'll have a break for Nasheed, which a lot of listeners have requested I play before we start the program. So first of all, IMTIAZ, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and thank you for joining us this evening.
Wa alaikum salam, Yunus, and thank you for having me. It's
Okay.
been a while.
Yes. Samuel, I think you haven't been around for a while. I know you've been busy. You had other business commitments and what have you. But we're delighted to have you with us this evening. Welcome to News in Focus once again.
Thanks, Yunus. It's been a while, but come here an open mind. Let's have a good chat.
Yeah, and I know Samuel, when he does an analysis, he looks at things from various angles. So I'm sure we'll have quite a good analysis of what's happening in the various subjects. We will take a Nasheed break now, and inshallah we'll continue our discussions after the Nasheed break.
Ya Rasool Allah, Ya Habib Allah, Aka, 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 Aka. फिर के गली गली तबाह ठोकर सब की खाए क्यों दिल को जो अक्ल दे खुदा तेरी गली से जाए क्यों रुखसत काफिला कशान गश से हमें उठाए क्यों रुखसत काफिला कशान गश से हमें उठाए क्यों सोते हैं उनके साए में सोते हैं उनके साए में कोई हमें जगाए क्यों फिर के क्यों दिल को जो अक्ल दे खुदा تیری گلی سے جائے کیوں یاد حضور کی قسم غفلت عیش ہے ستم یاد حضور کی قسم غفلت عیش ہے ستم خوب ہے قید غم میں غم خوب ہے قید غم میں غم کوئی ہمیں چھڑائے کیوں یا رسول اللہ یا رسول اللہ یا وہ جو نہ تھے تو کچھ نہ تھا وہ جو نہ ہو تو کچھ نہ ہو وہ جو نہ تھے تو کچھ نہ تھا وہ جو نہ ہو تو کچھ نہ ہو جان ہے وہ جہان کی جان ہے وہ جہان کی جان ہے تو جہان ہے آقا کیوں دل کو جو عقل دے خدا تیری گلی سے جائے کیوں ہاں جان ہے عشق مصطفیٰ روز فضوں کرے خدا جان ہے عشق مصطفیٰ روز فضوں کرے خدا جس کو درد کا مزہ جس کو درد کا مزہ سانسیں دوا اٹھائے کیوں پھر دل کو جو عقل دے خدا تیری گلی سے جائے کیوں ہے تو رضا میرا ستم جرم پہ گئے لجائے ہم ہے تو رضا میرا ستم جرم پہ گئے لجائے ہم کوئی بجائے سوز غم کوئی بجائے سوز غم سازے طرب بجائے کیوں یا رسول اللہ یا رسول اللہ یا رسول اللہ یا حبیب اللہ
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to News in Focus, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Pienberg 105.6 FM, and streaming on www.alansar.org.za. The mayor, recently appointed Mayor Zoran Mamdani of New York City, says that he will show how to stop Donald Trump. The 34-year-old Democratic Socialist victory with a record turnout is considered a historic win for the progressives. Let's catch a quick listen to his opening speech, whereafter we'll continue with our program.
Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up. We will hold bad landlords to account because the Donald Trumps of our city have grown far too comfortable taking advantage of their tenants. We will put an end to the culture of corruption that has allowed billionaires like Trump to evade taxation and exploit tax breaks. We will stand alongside unions and expand labor protections because we know, just as Donald Trump does, that when working people have ironclad rights, the bosses who seek to extort them become very small indeed. New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant. So hear me, President Trump, when I say this. To get to any of us, you will have to get through all of us. When we enter City Hall in 58 days, expectations will be high. We will meet them. A great New Yorker once said that while you campaign in poetry, you govern in prose. If that must be true, let the prose we write still rhyme, and let us build a shining city for all. And we must chart a new path, as bold as the one we have already traveled. After all, the conventional wisdom would tell you that I am far from the perfect candidate. I am young, despite my best efforts to grow older. I am Muslim. I am a democratic socialist. And most damning of all, I refuse to apologize for any of this.
It's the opening speech of Zoran Mamdani. He made a lot of other comments, and he's indicated that if Netanyahu comes to New York, he will definitely arrest him. So a lot of change in New York City, one of the biggest cities in America, and quite a vastly populated city. And he spoke about democracy in local government. And with me in the studio, I have IMTIAZ Sayed, who's currently a councillor in ETHEKWINI. We know the municipality is encountering a lot of problems of maladministration, corruption, various other problems related to service delivery, which has declined to such an extent that, they're pretty close to administration as well. But the mayor has got other ideas. IMTIAZ, basically, before we chat about the crumbling state of municipalities, and ETHEKWINI and Msunduzi are sort of none the better, I thought, let us just sort of go back to the municipalities' debt relief program.
Yes.
And we know Council approved an amendment to the original program and extended the deadline to 31st January 2026. Now, a lot of our residents are concerned that they sort of can't fathom out why the cutoff date is 31st January, because now we about 8 or 9 months into the year.
Yes.
I mean, coming into November, and it's about 9 months past the deadline date. How would this basically write off work? So you and I discussed it briefly. Perhaps you just want to unpack a little bit of the debt relief program, because we tried to unpack it last week and there was a little bit of ambiguity and lack of clarity. So perhaps for the benefit of our listeners, if you can just give a couple of examples on how the program will work in terms of the cutoff date of 31st January 2025.
Okay. So the debt relief program is twofold. First and foremost, it's for businesses as well as residential, right? Now, when it was originally postured and it came in and it ended firstly in June this year, and it was only there for a period of maybe 30 days, and everyone tried to get to it. And the questions we raised then was, how, if you 200,000 Rand in areas, how does someone come up immediately with 100,000 Rand because you're going to write off 100,000 Rand? So the thing about it was looking at those major debtors, the ones that had debt coming for over years and couldn't afford to pay it. It was in order to give them some sort of relief, but also on the side of the city to create clean audit reports. Because we can't carry on pulling over this debt. There comes a point when you have to say, we're going to cut our losses, we're going to give some relief, and we're going to move forward. So those that could afford it took advantage of it, and those that couldn't, unfortunately, they couldn't, right? The other thing about it is that the problem with it, and more the reasoning why it needed to come back is that it was twofold then. One was to say that if you had water loss insurance, right? Now, everybody, if you look at your municipal bill, some businesses don't have it, some do. It depends on what it is, right? If you had water loss insurance, when you claim it, the water standard level of service says that if you have a water leak, right, you are supposed to have it repaired within 30 days, right, from knowing that there's a leak. But where they have faulted was that they needed to have given you a red notice within a period of 3 months. So you might not know there's a leak. There's many people that have debit orders running off, and this is why I make it a thing of not having my water bill paid on debit order. I must get the bill and I want to see it. I want to look at it and I want to now pay it so that I know exactly what I'm paying for. And this is a very important thing. So what should happen is that if your water started leaking now, you don't see it until the next reading, okay? Because you're getting invoiced, for example, in November for October. So you'd now pick it up, but it's already a month later. So that reading comes in December, and it's already 2 months down. In month 3, which is January, they're supposed to be sending you a red notice, say something's wrong with your water. Your consumption has escalated 10-fold or 20-fold or what it is, and that's generally what happens when you have a 22-mm pipe leaking underground, right? They then supposed to come, and if you don't fix it within the next month, supposed to come and terminate your water. Now they let it run. When they let it run, it might run for up to a year and you don't even know. And the problem then came in was that water meter readings were not done monthly. They were being done after 6 months. So you now all of a sudden got a 70,000 Rand bill coming into your water. And this is why, more the reason, that part of it. So the first part of it must be discussed and understood properly. Now, if you had that prehistorically, or historically, you needed to first go to Prior Road Water Department and say, I've had this water loss, you didn't read my meter, please can you refund me? They then go and look at it, okay, your meter reading in June was 2,000 Rand, or you paid 2,000 Rand, all of a sudden it went up to 10,000 Rand, and it continued like that for 10 months. So you in areas of 80,000 Rand, not at your fault, because they didn't warn you according to their standard level of service. So then you go there and then they reduce that. Now, when you ran that concurrently with the debt relief of 50%, you might be saying, okay, I'm 100,000 Rand in areas. Let me go pay 50,000 Rand. They're writing off the 50,000 Rand. But you didn't take advantage of the water loss insurance. So what happens then? You can't go backwards. Now's your opportunity. So even if you did have the debt relief, your bill is currently done. But if you go historically and you had water loss, and Itebe, who's the insurance company that covers you, they only cover you for 3 months. The balance of it was not paid. So you go back to prior and you say, now credit me, right? So that's the first part. The second part is paying 50%. It was January, pre-January. So if you were in areas after January this year, that's not covered in this 50% debt relief. So anything pre-January. Now the question you raise is, I'm currently sitting in areas of 18,000 Rand. And in January, I was sitting in areas of 24,000 Rand, right? The 18,000 Rand is proportion to January, if you understand.
So you'll get that relief even though it's now.
Correct.
Because they'll go back to January and establish what was your arrears.
Yes.
And if it's a lower amount, they'll give you 50% of the lower amount.
Correct.
Is that how it works?
So, but here's the thing. Don't make a mistake and think, okay, in February, I paid the entire thing off and now I'm in areas again. That's not January's areas. You paid it off.
Right.
So if you were, for example, 24,000 and along the way you paid your monthly and you paid 1,000 Rand or 2,000 Rand
And you're
extra
still
towards
carrying the
areas,
arrears.
you're still carrying the areas. That evidence must be there because that's what they do. So when we're looking at our bill, we look at it as just the month to
For
month.
example, if you didn't pay anything in Feb,
Yes.
you just paid a nominal amount.
Yeah.
And in March, you paid the full amount, then you still messed up.
Yes.
So as long as you were in arrears up to now,
Correct.
they will go back to January and give you that portion of arrears.
Correct. Because you're currently in areas of so much, if you know what I mean.
Do they have the ability to pick that up?
Yes.
Those
because
that are captured.
you see, the systems that exist within the city are different from what you see on your billing. Theirs is line items. It's a spreadsheet. So it's quite clear to see the trajectory of how you paid, when you paid. It's basically an income expenditure journal, if you know what I mean.
Now, coming back to, that's the criteria for qualifying,
Yes.
which obviously...
And just to touch on when you're going through, if you're not the account holder, there's a whole lot of documents that you require. So if
you're a tenant, then you got to ask the account
you got to
holder.
ask the account holder to give you a letter of authority. That needs to be signed, copy of the ID. If it's a deceased estate, death certificate, letter of executorship.
The fact that the bill is in your name, isn't that evidence that you are the consumer? Because you need a letter from the landlord to have the bill on your name. I know there is a policy in place that if you leave the premises, then the debt goes to the owner.
Correct. No, if the bill's in your name, you have no issue. You can just go with your ID.
Even though you're not the owner.
That's fine. The bill is in your name, And even if the owner had an erstwhile tenant where the bill in areas is of that owner, he can't now transfer to himself until that bill is settled. So even if he wants to, he must get a letter of authority from his tenant to go and put in an arrangement to pay his account.
Now, coming back to the arrangement, if tenant A goes to ETHEKWINI municipality, Florence MKWANAZI building, the building department, and says, currently in areas of 25,000.
Yeah.
Go back to January and check what was my situation. And if your areas say 15,000, then that 15,000 will be knocked off as a portion to be written off.
50% of
Now, I know that it was on the condition that the balance get paid, but there is concessions to pay it over 6 months.
Now, no. Let's understand this correctly. So if, for example, your bill is sitting on 30,000, right? 15,000 of that is from January to current. And 15,000 is pre-January. 7,500 of that would be paid off, and you must pay 7,500 immediately for that
but
first.
But if you can't pay it immediately, don't you have?
No.
Isn't there the policy states that they'll give you time to pay the balance?
The policy is from anything from January to current, you pay 5%, and that can be paid off over a period of 6 months.
Just unpack that a bit. Let's assume that you currently owe 20,000 Rand,
Yes.
your November bill.
Yeah.
You went to Florence MKWANAZI and you told him, listen, I want to take advantage of the write-off.
Yes.
So they go back as of 31st January, you owe maybe 10,000.
Yes.
So they'll write off 5,000, and the balance of that 5,000, can you pay it?
No. They'll write off 5,000.
You're going to pay the 5,000.
You must pay the 5,000. And the balance, which was not written off, that can be made arrangements for 6 months.
Okay.
You can't still be in areas, if you know what I mean.
So if you got 100,000, you're going to pay 50,000 down and look for the 50,000.
Correct.
Okay. And now, people have encountered difficulties with officials from Florence MKWANAZI building when
Yes.
they're dealing with the entire bill.
Hmm.
And I noticed that there's notifications coming through that these officials will be present, I think, sometime next week at Hartley Road Primary School,
Yes,
as well as some other venue
correct.
where officials will be present from the department. Will those officials merely give advice, or will they be able to implement the adjustments?
If credit department's coming in, then they will be able to process everything for you at the
They'll
same
come
time.
with their computers.
With the computers, with everything. And then remember, the criteria for it is payment. So you can do the LOA, sign the
so
agreement,
how do
do
they
all of
make the
those things.
payment if they're making the arrangements? They do an EFT straight away?
You
Or
can do an EFT, which takes longer. You might as well go to a Sizakala center and pay with your card or cash. And then you need to take that back to the third floor and give it to them. Because the only time it goes to a different department to process the refund is once everything is done. So your payment is there. It's
so
reflecting
those
in your
officials
account.
that will be coming next week at Hartley Road will give advice to each
They'll check your
consumer
bill, they'll tell you exactly what you
they
need to
can
do.
pay. So they'll have to still go to Sizakala Center and
No,
pay, or
for the payment.
do they have to go to Florence MKWANAZI again?
No. So let me explain it. You can make an EFT. Now, if you're going and if it's expiring at the end of January, you're not going to be able to process that payment on the 30th of January, and it's going to be affected in the account of the city. It's going to end up in February, and then you're going to pass the date. But if you're doing it now, then you've got some time. So you might as well do it now, and don't wait for Hartley Road. Go to the third floor in Martin West Building. It depends on your surname. So there's staff allocated according to your surname. So ABC, there's a particular individual. You know,
They got
DEF.
enough staff on the third floor.
Yes.
Is there
yes.
not big queues there or long waiting periods?
If you're going to go on the 31st of January, you're going to have a long...
No, I'm talking about now if they had to go.
No, you
between-
can go now. You can go now and take
because
advantage of it.
that's what consumers have explained, that there's a lot of red tape
Yes.
in getting up to the third floor. There's queues there. People got to wait for hours on end.
Yeah.
Those officials are incompetent there, and there's not proper information given.
Yeah.
I know when we were doing write-offs back in the day, we planned and we made sure, we had 10 people working with 10 computers, so you can deal with 10 at a time. And if you've got 100 people in the queue,
Yeah.
within an hour, you can expedite and wait for the new. But these guys are just got 2-3 people. People are waiting in big queues. They're not being dealt appropriately.
Yes.
How can we attend to that? There were talks about having more of these sessions where they can do live adjustments with their computers and get people to pay, and even have kind of facilities that the Sizakala got.
Correct. So, the thing about it, Yunus, the last time it happened, it was in a period of 60 days. And by the time it got passed and the information went out to community, 2 weeks had already passed. And everyone now wanted to take advantage of it. And now you end up in long queues, right? But not fully understanding what it is that you required. So all you did was take in your bill and you went there. Now, an official, rightfully so, can't just do, if you went in with my bill and say, no, I want to do this, you can't. So having the right documentation, doing all of those things, now you'll say, oh, but do I have to stand in the queue again? Yes, you're going to have to stand in the queue again. So I'm saying, and I can't give out this number, you can call credit control directly, right? And give them the problem with people is that they want to try and get everything over the phone. And they want to sit with an official for an hour. It doesn't make sense. Call the number, give them your account number. They will give you to the person that's there, or give you an email address that you can contact. Email the person. Say, this is who I am. This is my account number. Can you check? They don't need to know your figures and the history and what happened. All of that they'd pick up, and then they'll advise you electronically first. And then they'll say, bring this, and make sure this
They
is
got
certified.
enough people in those call centers answering the
Absolutely.
calls. Perhaps you can give that number to our residents. IMTIAZ will give the number to the residents. All you got to do is give your consolidated billing number to the staff that are on call at the information centers.
So
And
031
031
322
322
3973.
3973. That's a call center.
No, it's not a call center. It's direct lines to credit control.
So there's
031
several lines to
Yeah.
that number.
031 3111 633 as well.
So
Right.
you dial those numbers, and any one of the people who are on available to chat will give you the details.
Yeah, so no, just tell them that this is my account number. I am in areas I'd like help. That's it. And then they'll put you through to the relevant person that's dealing. They'll ask you your surname, right? Once you speak to them, get the email address and email them. It's very simple electronically. They even can start sending you documents online. You can then look at your query and say, no, but why this or why that? And here's the thing. If you're taking advantage of the water loss insurance, I understand this. There might be many that had water loss insurance and want to make that claim, right? If you go currently and you do the credit authority, they're giving you 50% off that water loss. Don't assume that when you go to Prior Road, they're going to write off that entire bill, because they're going to pick up that you've already gotten a 50% discount on it anyway. So you can do it either way. Either go claim your water loss first, let that reflect, and then see if you're still in areas. Because some of the time, once they write off the water loss, you're now not in areas anymore. If you know what I mean.
So query if your water account is much higher than your average, you could have a water loss, and Prior Road will be able to assist you there, because there's a little bit of time before the 31st January.
Correct.
I just want to bring Samuel in. Samuel, you quite au fait with municipal affairs. Before we chat to you about the MKWANAZI inquest, any comments on this debt relief program? Is it confusing to our consumers, or is it quite an onerous task, or will the municipality make it easier? Because I know you can get into the different websites or links where information is available on the current policy. Samuel?
Thanks, Yunus. Anything that helps people as an element of nobility. But ideologically, there's no nobility, because all they're doing is they're trying to recover cash. So anybody who understands businesses will give you a discount. You want to buy in big bulk, we cut the price. You're not collecting the money, so you've already written that loss off anyway. So if you're getting 50% and you're attracting 50%, in other words, you're increasing your revenue by 50%. That's basically the long and short of it. So there's an element of nobility. The only difference is that the bulk of the people can't afford to pay the balance of the 50%. And here's the nub, or here's the rub. And the rub is that I think government, including the city and all the cities, have a responsibility as part of the three spheres of government to give people work. And they're not. They're focusing more on credit control rather than economic stimulation, because 50% write-off on something that's already been written off prior year. Because remember, you understand income statements and balance sheets. July last year, they're already written it off as a long-term trade creditor. July this year, still reflected, so they wrote it off again. So making provision for that, it's noble, but the justice to it is you're still paying, even though you don't have. And so the challenge, I'm saying to IMTIAZ, I think good job, and it has it's like sugarcoating a bad result. Our people need economic stimulation, right? And that's more important than writing off. And that's a disappointment with local government. They're putting Band-Aid on a wound. The wound is gaping. We need to create jobs at all three spheres of government.
IMTIAZ, you want to comment on the debt?
I think I'd rather do this, right? There's so many different policies that are available. For example, there's a debt relief. So it's later states, for example. If that later state is in areas, the next of kin get a write-off. People don't know that. So you're sitting now, you've inherited a property, there's an executor, the bill is sitting on R1 million. It can be written off. The one thing that we did do was we put in a motion to say next of kin. Next of kin could also mean surviving spouse. Remember, when you married in community or property, the bill is in two people's name. So the problem that we had was, if your spouse passed away, you don't get the write-off because you were always the account holder. So we've now moved a motion for that to now be implemented, to say, even if your spouse passed away, you go in and you get that debt relief, right? I think giving out these numbers for credit control, people are not going to be happy because it's a busy time. I think, let me give out my number. People can call me. I mean, be patient. I'm just one individual. I'm not going to be available in the last 15 days of January. Don't call me then because you're in a hurry. I'm not in a hurry. If you call me now within the next 10 to 15 days, I can advise you appropriately. I'll give you my email address. You can email me your account number. I can get you the right person to speak to, and then we can now take it down. And I can advise you based on understanding your bill, being involved as a counselor, if you know what I mean.
Yes, give your number, IMTIAZ.
082-694-6072. Please don't call me and give me a long story. Send me a WhatsApp. I'm in areas, please can you check for me? This is my account number. Because sometimes I get people calling me and they're giving me this whole story about, you know, I've been sick and I had this, and I just want to get to the issue at hand, which is you in areas. Let me see how I can help you.
Now, there's officials that are going to call at Hartley Road, the school. Can you give some details about that? Because somebody arranged that, so I think many people can go there. Because we might have many officials.
Can't really. I mean, if you spoke to me about it a little earlier, I could have contacted someone.
I think it's on the 9th of November, if I'm not
mistaken. But if they're sending out officials to deal with this particular issue, then it would be a task team that's equipped to deal with it. And it's important that they go out. But I think my second counselor, Councillor Ismail, would know more about it, and I can give you his number as well. And he'll also be able to assist you.
Well, let me just give you the date. It appeared in one of the group's website, where mention was made that there will be officials present at certain venues, because we were hoping as Al-Ansar that we can arrange,
we've actually arranged to have them here before.
Yes, we could do that, but they're calling it Batupele and Revenue Outreach.
Yes.
And they mentioned that, basically on the 8th of November at Westcliff Shopping Centre, 21B Chatswood, and on the 9th of November, Hartley Road Primary School, Buria.
Yeah.
The officials will be present there to deal with all these issues. But what we're trying to establish at the Al-Ansar Hall is to have these officials available, so that people who are in areas can come in and get more information, etc.
Let me do this for you. It's just like how we've done before. You've got my second seat, Councillor Ismail's number. Give him a call. Ask him to message the city. You guys can make the venue available, and then we can do it here. We'll get the necessary officials out to deal with this before.
Yes, something similar can be rolled out.
Absolutely.
even before the end of November, so that our members of the public can be invited to come to the venue with their bills.
And I think we'll put some criteria into it. We'll call it for pensioners. If you're over 60, we'll allow it, because we don't want a double dispatch on what Batupele is doing. So Batupele is doing a community outreach for everybody. Let us look at the pensioners, the disabled, so that we can assist that side of community to say, we've taken care of you instead of you waiting in a long queue, if you know what I mean.
I think it's a good initiative, and let's see whether we can assist, because we've had a lot of calls coming through where people are concerned. They're still in areas because of the economy. People are unemployed, and they don't want to be disconnected. But after the break, news break, we'll have a chat, because a lot of these residents have been threatened with disconnection because they haven't. But if this opportunities are available till 31st January, the council must put a moratorium on disconnections pending the finalization of this policy. Okay, on that note, we'll take a break for the news, and inshallah we'll continue after the news break.
Radio Al-Ansar, 24/7, 365.
An informative Islamic global perspective. This is Al-Ansar News.
Breaking news, this on the 5th of November. The news from Durban 90.4 FM, Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM. KwaZulu-Natal police arrest 13,164 suspects in crime-fighting operations. America Monina. Police in KwaZulu-Natal have gone through various crime-fighting operations and they have arrested 13,164 suspects for different categories of crime in the month of October. Reporters about 195 of these arrests were linked to cases of murder and 214 suspects were in connection with cases of attempted murder. Police spokesperson Robert Nechuanda says 262 suspects were arrested for sexual assault, while 11 suspects were arrested for attempted sexual assault. He says house burglaries, theft of vehicles, as well as livestock are also on the rise. More news now. KwaZulu-Natal Parents Association is urging mothers and fathers to take responsibility for correcting their children's bullying behavior. The report says there has been a spate of bullying incidents at schools around the country, some of which were captured on video and posted on social media. In KwaZulu-Natal, an incident at the Mount View Secondary School in Verulam recently made headlines. The report says the association's chairperson, V. Gani, says that even though the perpetrators are children, they're still committing an offense. Gani says some parents are in denial, thinking their kids can do no wrong. KwaZulu-Natal Education maintains that it has a zero-tolerance policy for bullying. Last month, it partnered with the NPA in KwaZulu-Natal and local life skills NPO True Life to launch an anti-bullying campaign in schools across the province. More news. Amnesty International South Africa says some KwaZulu-Natal flood survivors have been stuck in temporary shelters in the last 3 years. Amnesty International says some of those facilities are now also experiencing flooding. The group says that the situation exposes the serious failures of government's plan and government's response to disasters. In a new report released this week, Amnesty says the well-being of more than 5 million people living in informal settlements are at risk. It says ETHEKWINI municipality is one of the hardest stricken metros. The organization's executive director, Shanila Mohammed, says millions remain without adequate housing, basic services, or long-term relocation plans, despite constitutional guarantees. Mohammed added that the climate crisis is worsening the situation and those with the least resources continue to suffer the most. Amnesty has called for urgent upgrades to informal settlements and for disaster risk planning to be built into urban development. In the month of July, the KwaZulu-Natal Human Settlements Department had set aside 650 million rands to build homes for flood victims in Konubia and the north of Durban. Wealth inequality is a global emergency that threatens democracy and social cohesion, that's according to experts, urging the G20 leaders meeting in South Africa due to take place this month to establish a panel to tackle the crisis. The proposed panel on inequality was inspired by the UN's expert intergovernmental panel on climate change, which analyzes the risk of global warming and proposes solutions. President Ramaphosa welcomes a report on inequality put together by experts.
Know the origins of why there is inequality in South Africa. And the inequality did not start yesterday. It did not start in 1994. The inequality that our people are suffering from started many years ago with colonialism, with apartheid, and with all the other determinants that the report also talks about. It has a history.
And finally, international story. Israel has issued 2 tenders for construction of 356 new illegal settler units in the occupied West Bank. That's according to an Israeli anti-settlement group. The Peace Now movement, which monitors settlement activity in the West Bank, says today Israel's Ministry of Construction and Housing published the tenders for the construction of a new neighborhood in the Giva Binyamin settlement in the southeast of Ramallah. The first tender covers 342 units, while the second includes 14 designated for reserve soldiers. According to the group, an additional tender was published earlier on Sunday for a settlement project in the Givon Hadashah settlement south of Ramallah. Your weather, it's 21 degrees. A quick reminder of our top story. Police in KwaZulu-Natal have gone through various crime-fighting operations and they have arrested 13,164 suspects for different categories of crime in the month of October. That's the news.
Radio Al-Ansar, keeping you in the loop.
This hadith is sponsored by Ashraful Aid, International Humanitarian Organization.
Hadith a day, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, الحياء شعبة من الإيمان. Modesty is part of Iman. A person who has true Iman will always be decent and not rude. Modesty and shame should be shown in everything. A person's speech, dressing, and manners should always be respectful. Dressing correctly plays an important role in modesty. We should always dress modestly and protect our shame.
This hadith is sponsored by Ashraful Aid, International Humanitarian Organization.
Are you looking for a meaningful way to fulfill your zakat obligation? Look no further than Ashraful Aid. With our trusted track record, your zakat reaches those who need it the most in the most honorable and dignified manner. Visit our website at www.ashrafulaid.org.
Sunnah a Day, proudly brought to you by Sunpick, 100% pure sunflower cooking oil. Sunpick, cook more with less.
میرے نبی پیارے نبی سنت تیری دنیا دی.
Sunnah a day. When entering one's home, one should recite the following dua. Allahumma inni as'aluka khayral mawlaji wa khayral makhraji. Bismillahi walajna wa bismillahi kharajna. Wa ala Allahi rabbina tawakkalna.
Sunnah a Day, proudly brought to you by Sunpick, 100% pure sunflower cooking oil. Sunpick, cook more with less.
Imagine this. You're putting together a 7-color meal, from the creamy pasta to the glazed carrots and flavorful onion gravy. This entire meal is made with our 100% pure extra virgin olive oil from our La Familia range, bringing outstanding quality and taste to your kitchen. Shop La Familia 100% pure extra virgin olive oil at any leading supermarkets near you. La Familia, heart of the home.
Radio Al-Ansar, 24/7, 365.
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Al-Ansar, Durban 90.4 and Petermarisburg 105.6 FM every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with Yunus Sacoor. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday. Radio Al-Ansar, keeping you informed.
Allah, 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 Allah. تنہا ہوں میں اور امتحان لاکھوں تنے ہیں سامنے بیٹھا ہوں میں مایوس کن آئے نہ کوئی مجھے تھامنے اللہ اللہ تو میری سن لے صدا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير مایوب ہوں تیرا کرم پردہ رکھا عزت بھی دی بڑھ کے دیا اوقات سے دولت بھی طاقت بھی اور وقت بھی کر دے خطا ہر معاف تو فہرست اسیاں کو چھوڑ دے اللہ اللہ تو میری سن لے صدا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير رنگینیوں خود غرضیوں میں ہے گزاری یہ عمر ہے آرزو بس کہ یہی کر دوں تیرے نام شام و سحر تسکین دل حاصل کروں رخ اپنی جانب تو موڑ دے اللہ اللہ تو میری سن لے صدا حسبنا اللہ ونعم الوکیل حسبنا اللہ ونعم الوکیل حسبنا اللہ ونعم الوکیل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير لب پہ رہے ذکر و دعا اور تجھ سے میں ڈرتا رہوں کر کے عمل قرآن پہ جنت کی راہوں پہ چلتا رہوں خدمت کروں اسلام کی پچھتاوے کا غم توڑ دے اللہ اللہ تو میری سن لے صدا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير روتا رہا سجدوں میں جو دل میں لیے امت کا غم پڑھتا رہوں میں تو فتن اپنے نبی پہ درود ہر قدم ہو روح جب تن سے جدا جنت کی جانب چلے دوڑ کر اللہ اللہ تو میری سن لے صدا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير الله
Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to News in Focus live on Radio Ansaar International Broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Peter Masberg 105.6 FM, and streaming on www.alansar.org.za. The name is Yunus Sacoor, and before the break, we were chatting briefly about the analysis of the debt relief program as presented by Councillor IMTIAZ Sayed, from founder of ETHEKWINI Sacoor, and we asked Samuel to make comments, and Samuel mentioned that the debt is written off and it's carried forward. So obviously the debt is sitting in the balance sheet under debtors, and that is carried over. The recovery thereof is a problem, but obviously tactically politicians are beginning to write off the debt because it's municipal elections around the corner, and it's a political decision. And from my time in the municipality, these write-offs were prevalent, so it's nothing new. And who's eventually paying for this is the citizens. They pay rates, and it gets impacted on that. But before we chat about an update on the MKWANAZI inquest, and we're going to get MP SUBRATHIE on the line, whereafter Samuel will give us further information. IMTIAZ wanted to share with us some important information, but before he does that, some listeners have indicated that if he can repeat his number so that they can WhatsApp him to get some assistance on the debt relief. IMTIAZ, if you can just repeat your cell number so people can WhatsApp you for assistance.
082 694 6072.
You can repeat that so that those people who are writing it can write it carefully.
082 694 6072.
So that's IMTIAZ's number. He's the councillor in the ETHEKWINI municipality, but he also gave other numbers that you can call the debt relief section. But also, as the Ansaar Foundation, we're trying to make arrangements with one of the councillors, of this particular ward, to see whether we can get officials from the credit control department to our hall, so that we can invite, the disabled, elderly, pensioners, etc., to come in and get the valuable information from the officials to establish what amount they qualify for the write-off. IMTIAZ, you were wanting to share some very important information before we go into the next topic.
Yeah, Yunus, this thing of the number plates. Remember, the deadline's the end of November.
That is for change of the number plate.
Change of your number plate. So if you were rolling out with ND and NP and NDE and all of that, you need to very quickly move to the ZN plate. Now, you've got a few options. You can go to licensing office yourself. There's a whole lot of forms that you have to fill out. Or you can go to eNatus online, register yourself. Your vehicle will automatically come up on system. Click on
the new number
with the new number. So when your new license just comes, it'll come with the new number plate. Then you just have to make number plates at any of the number plate guys, and you're done. But don't try and do it on the last day of November. It's going to be very busy. You've got some time now. Get that done, because as of the 1st of December, it's no longer valid to have the old number plate. You might be getting fines going into December.
Now, those notification, I think, would come through on what's it called, SMSs to those, because at least 2 months before the license expires, you get notification.
If you were registered correctly.
Yes.
A lot of people, when they're filling out forms and transferring vehicles, they don't put in their proper number plate, their phone numbers and email addresses. So you don't get those notices, if you know what I mean. So it's important for everyone to know, end of November is your deadline. Try and get it done sooner than later.
Samuel Kachalia, who is the acting Minister of Police, he indicated that MKWANAZI's July explosive briefing with Regalia worried him. And he mentioned that he described that as, a press appearance in full military uniform as unacceptable. He says such behavior is inappropriate and deeply concerning. In his appearance on this Wednesday before the ad hoc committee probing allegations of corruption and political interference in the criminal justice system, he mentioned that appearance before public worried him, and even more so questioned the manner in which some information was made public. He argues that ordinarily professional conduct requires respect of the structure of authority. So in other words, what he's saying is that in the police force, there are certain protocols that need to be followed. And this fellow, without following those protocols, he just started to, unbundle information. He doesn't know whether it was politically motivated or whatever. So he also went on to say in his meeting with the ad hoc committee that, he advocates for the political killings task team to be reinstated, which his previous minister banned, or he unbanned it. He basically, what he's saying is that he's come out in support of continued existence of the political killings task team, PKTT, saying there was a need for a strategy to fight organized crime utilizing prosecution-led investigations. I'm not sure whether we've got Imran Subrathiie on the line. Imran, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus Live on Radio Ansaar International.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yunus, to you and to your guests, Councillor IMTIAZ, and to my good friend in the studio with you,
Samuel Kennedy.
Samuels.
Yeah, Imran, I know you have a busy day in Parliament and you're discussing a whole lot of issues, and you're acting chair of a huge portfolio. And we ought to have interviewed you last week, but we didn't have time. So basically, what I want to know is that Professor Kachalia was interviewed by the evidence leader in the morning session of the ad hoc committee. And, obviously tougher questions are coming to him. But what I want you to do is just give us a bit of a background on so that, we can unpack it in the studio. I mentioned that Kachalia obviously was concerned about the manner in which MKWANAZI articulated, his briefing. He did it in full uniform. He didn't follow the correct procedure. But ultimately, the message went to Parliament, and the President considered what his allegations were and decided to appoint a commission of inquiry. And obviously, that commission has now been formed and they're starting their investigations. But maybe you can just give us a bit of a background. They call it the Madlanga inquiry. And I know there's a lot of people being interviewed, but give us some background into how the president went about having this commission of inquiry being appointed, asking the former minister, Senzo Mchunu, to go on special leave, and appointing Kachalia as the acting minister. Imran?
No, thanks, Yunus, once again. Thanks for having me on your show. Listen, let me begin by saying that, I think you and your listeners will be experts in the topic of what's going on in the Madlanga Commission and the ad hoc committee, simply because from the way this matter has seized the country, almost everyone, it's become like the new soap opera in the country, and rightly so, because every citizen is now hooked on YouTube, watching either the ad hoc committee or watching either the Madlanga Commission. In fact, I was in hospital last week, and there was somebody, there was someone who was visiting someone in hospital, and I happened to be there. And I was listening into the ad hoc committee, and he grabs his head and he says, "Oh, I missed out for 2 days because my dad is in hospital." So this is the extent to which ordinary citizens are really interested in what's going on. And that is why I said, let me put a rider there that I'm not an expert. And also as an MP, it would be unparliamentary for me to venture into providing opinions, etc. I'll stick largely with processes. But maybe regarding Minister, you wanted some background. So there's basically, after the ad hoc committee in which I was really, where my interest would lie, there's 2 spheres of government, or 3 arms of government. The one arm is the executive, in which the president presides over. The other arm of government is the legislature, where MPs like myself sit. Our task is to make laws. The executive's task, which is by the president, their job is to implement laws. And then the third arm of government is judiciary, and their job is to ensure that there's fairness and there's justice in the implementation of laws. That's how the 3 arms work together for there to be order in the country. So after the July 6th media release of the Lieutenant General MKWANAZI, obviously there was a response that needed to be taken. I think at that point in time, the president was, on that Sunday, the president would have been outside the country, and everybody awaited what is the president going to do. So the president, in his wisdom, and that he is going to form a commission of inquiry into the allegation General MKWANAZI concerning the dysfunctioning within the justice, and particularly the claims of political interference, the claims of corruption between law enforcement and prosecuting authorities. So the president decided in his wisdom that he's going to implement or have a commission, and that's the Madlanga Commission, which is continuing. Parallel to that, as I indicated, that's why I gave the background into the 3 arms of government. We as parliament, as legislatures, our job then is to also have oversight, or to ensure that the ministries are doing what they're supposed to do. Hence, it was also within our right as parliament to then we commissioned what you call an ad hoc committee. And the ad hoc committee at the moment is taking place in parliament. And its aim is, it's a parliamentary committee like any other portfolio committee, except it's ad hoc in nature. It's there for this purpose, to investigate those claims thoroughly, to hear from all the stakeholders, and ultimately determine what actions as parliament we should recommend to the executive, through the ministry, to strengthen accountability, and of course to restore confidence in these institutions. So that I thought I'd just give the background in terms of why there are these 2. There's a commission and an ad hoc committee, and what's our role in this whole thing.
Now, Imran, you just wanted to add, basically, I know there's a lot of killings that are still taking place in Cape Flats and other areas, but, obviously, what has been the main issues that have come up in the committee thus far? In other words, whilst the acting minister of police has come and he's talking about certain policy procedures, he's got to focus on strengthening SAPS. So, what did he share with the ad hoc committee? I know he hasn't been there very long, but one of the sort of comments he made is he wants to reinstate the PKTT, the Political Killings Task Team, which the previous minister Senzo disbanded. And he's obviously wanting the police force to follow the necessary chains of command or lines of communication.
Yeah, so I think firstly we must appreciate that Minister Kachalia comes at a time, in a crucial time, where he has to build public trust, where he has to close this gap that there is between the Department of Policing and the general people. And he's coming at a crucial time. And he's the kind of person, maybe to comment, because I had an opportunity to meet him in person today. I have been engaging with him previously. In fact, before he became a minister as well, he was in charge. He was given the presidential responsibility of dealing with the issues of whistleblowers. So I was engaging with him as an MP in terms of how then can be, what is government doing to protect whistleblowers? That was before he became an MP. But what I can maybe begin to say that what I think is of Minister Kachalia, he surrounded himself with people that, in my opinion, that he knows, people that he's worked with, people that are trusted and tested, and he has confidence in them. In fact, there was a vacant position for a special advisor, and he's filled that vacancy with someone that he's extremely comfortable with. And today I also had the opportunity of meeting his chief of staff, who indicated is a really successful appointment for him. So I think that's crucial for me. That's the first thing. I think he surrounded himself with good advisors, and his task is really to build from bottom up. He has to start building from bottom up. Another comment, for example, and as I said, Yunus, when I started, we don't get to listen to we as MPs are not sitting for 24 hours listening to the Madlanga Commission or ad hoc commission. We will just get them in media bites. Whatever goes out that's relevant, we'll pick it up. And maybe from one of that I gathered is very useful, and that he has indicated that on the issue of doing a lifestyle audit, I'm just trying to give an indication of how progressive he is in his thinking, and that he realizes he's in a situation where he needs to create traction, he needs to build public trust, and he needs to do the right thing. I think that's crucial. So he's indicated that he wants to implement lifestyle audits urgently of officials that are in senior management position. And I think that's going to send a compelling message out to all those who are in those positions of leadership and official positions, senior positions, that there will be a lifestyle audit. At least let's put it this way. He's expressed that sentiment today before the ad hoc commission in response to a question that he supports it, and he supports it to be done urgently. He's also indicated, and I grabbed another media bite, that he wasn't too sure about the disbandment of the PKTT. And yes, that will therefore align with your statement, because I never hear him saying that perhaps he feels the PKTT needs to be kept alive and shouldn't be disbanded. So maybe that's as much as I would want to comment on that, Yunus.
Just a final question, Imran. I know you got to attend some important issues there. How will you ensure that this process produces tangible results and is not another committee inquiry? Because a lot of people with the other committees were formed, or commissions of inquiries, even the Zondo Commission, they were concerned that people are not getting prosecuted and there's not much results or outcomes from the recommendations of those committees. So are we hopeful that this will improve service delivery in the police force? All the corruption, maladministration will stop, the political killings will stop? Your feedback?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question and a very important question, Yunus, and probably the most important question that you've asked me, and we should all be asking, is what's so where from here? What's the road ahead? What's the roadmap? So we want this inquiry to result in action, and it must not be rhetoric. That's the first statement I would. Then I would just say, in terms of procedure, once all the evidence has been gathered, Yunus, and witnesses have been heard, the committee will then compile a comprehensive report detailing its findings and its recommendations, and that report will then be presented to the National Assembly for debate. It's important to stress that this process is not about individuals, Yunus. it's about strengthening institutions, and it's about ensuring that South Africans entrust their law enforcement and justice systems. That's the second point I would have made. Of course, it will. The way now, very important is where wrongdoing is proven, then there must be consequences, including, and but of course not limited to referrals to law enforcement agencies, internal disciplinary processes. And our stance as Parliament is clear. This is about restoring confidence in policing, and it's about ensuring that no one is above the law. And Parliament will and must play its part in this oversight. And all this will have a ripple effect on the overall performance, in my view, of all levels of government. I think that's the point I'll make, and I'll conclude. First thing I see this entire thing happening, other than what Parliament would do, make recommendations and ensure that gets implemented. First thing, I think the overall effect in the country would be executives will certainly, in my view, take their roles and their jobs far more seriously. Because the Madlanga Commission and the ad hoc committee is showing that this is the power of the law, that whoever the executive may be, you can be brought before the law, and you can be held to account. And if you were remotely involved in any wrongdoing, you will have to be accountable. So I certainly think the executives and all the departments under them, all those state employees, whoever, all those management, in my view, it is a wake-up call. So I think that's very progressive. Secondly, where I sit, that is in legislature, we have oversight over various departments, over portfolio committees. In my view, and it's already started, we will ask more questions. We will ask the hard questions. We will be far more decisive in any cracks that we may find, Yunus. Oversight will definitely be strengthened. I mean, my own example, you mentioned earlier, I'm the acting chair at the moment of the Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technology. And one particular entity came before us, and there was, it had to do regarding its ability to fund itself, etc., etc., etc. And it came before us, and it had serious challenges. And as the chairperson of the committee, having heard that, one would ordinarily then write to the minister and say to the minister, this is the concern we have, please do something about it. But in my view, as the chair of the acting chair, I felt the matter was exceptionally serious. Hence, what we did, we elevated a letter to the deputy president, who is the leader of government business, so that we ensure that the matter is elevated to the highest level. Now, that's the kind of seriousness I'm saying that it now gives us in portfolio committees to take to be decisive. And lastly, certainly not least, is I believe the justice system as well. As I mentioned, there are three arms of government. The justice system will also close rank. They will also catch a wake-up call. And I think in an overall, I think you will find there will be greater compatibility and working of the government departments. And inshallah, the hope is we can restore the system of justice and restore public trust so that all our people have access to a fair policing and a fair justice system. That would be my contributions, Hannes.
Shukran, Imran, for giving us some valuable information relating to this matter. We have guests in the studio and we'll unpack it further. But we wish you everything of the best and we hope to interview you sometime in future when you're back in Durban. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
That was MP Imran Subrathie. He's in Cape Town busy with parliamentary affairs and he agreed to be interviewed. Just going through 1-2 messages before I bring Samuel and Hassan in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can we please have Councillor cell number? Jazaul Khair. I think IMTIAZ, you gave your cell number. There's another message. You just want to go through it or give it to us. Farida, I think Imi mentioned Salams Nishawa. It is saying, Salams, what is your guest doing to collect money from councillors and staff that has huge amount of unpaid bills? I'm not sure what that question is all about, but I think the guess is merely indicating that, those that are in areas, there's a debt relief program and eventually we should contact the credit control department so that we could then ensure that those that have areas, they're taken care of. Another message has come to my parents who are in the 70s are renting in a flat in Overport for the past 6 years. The water bill is still registered of the previous tenant who died. The landlord was informed to please sort out or put in a water meter. This wasn't done. And over the years, landlord has changed about 4 times. And the problem remains on the unpaid bill still comes and we don't receive municipality bill any longer. So no idea what the current monthly bills are. Please advise. So IMTIAZ, you've given your WhatsApp number to cases like this, and we did speak briefly about it. And we're trying to arrange, a session in one of our halls so that this information can be unpacked and the consumer, because there are many like this that are actually renting.
Yeah.
Perhaps you comment before we ask Samuel to come in.
In understanding that one, that is the municipal bill is going to the landlord, and he is sub-metering, via Cytic or one of these other companies. Now, that is not something for the municipality to deal with. That is something they need to go to the rental tribunal or someone like that to deal with that
Or
issue.
even to go to the landlord and
Go
tell
to
him,
the
let's have a
landlord
look
and
at the
say,
bill.
let's have a look at the bill and let's see
And
what's
this is
happening.
quite common with tenants.
Correct.
Samuel Mchunu kept his 2 deputies powerless. He did not delegate powers to his deputies. He was running it with the iron fist, this department. And suddenly from the blue, MKWANAZI starts going berserk and making a whole lot of allegations. Kachalia has come in. He's trying to restore stability, deal with some of the critical issues. He may not be the most popular of guys, but because of his legal background, he's come in and he's going to face the music. But perhaps you just want to give our listeners a bit of a rundown. What is the agenda of MKWANAZI? And don't be afraid of telling us. Is he linked up with MK? Is he opportunistically raising these issues, or is he covering his back? What is the the feeling out of politicians, or what is the perception of people out there? Is MKWANAZI trying to vindicate himself? Any possible problem being, the commissioner in KwaZulu-Natal, Samuel?
Thanks, Yunus.
I threw a whole lot of curveballs.
Yeah, you did. Let me just make a comment made by my good friend IMRAN SUBRATHIE, so that I don't lose my train of thought on that. South Africa has had commissions for the last 30 years, the result of which nobody knows.
There's no implementation on the recommendations. Or maybe some, or not all.
The last of them being the Zondo Commission, where over R1 billion was spent.
And very few of the recommendations have been implemented.
None, literally.
Right.
So what's my point? My point is that all these little commissions are all political posturing. So I'll give you an example. One of the commissions they should have had was a commission on AMSA, ArcelorMittal. They took from government 2.7 billion. They're now going to be sold for another 7 billion. It's now literally 10 billion down the line, besides all the consultant fees and all the management fees. Who's the loser? It comes back to local government, which we were talking about earlier. It comes back to the man on the street. Our people are suffering, and all we do is we have a lot of populist rhetoric which doesn't put 1 cent in the pocket of the ordinary citizens, apart from all those who are taking from the trough.
So what you're alluding to is the fact that these commission of inquiries are there to unpack maladministration, fraud, corruption on the part of politicians, officials. A commission is appointed. They're making serious recommendations of billions of rands that have gone missing, which is the ratepayers and taxpayers' money. But the outcomes are nothing is coming back to the fiscus to reduce the rates and taxes of individuals.
Nothing. It's just politics is rotten in this country. Politics is.
So what you're telling our listeners is that Subrathie responded and said we must see outcomes to these inquiries, and he's hoping Madlanga will have an outcome. But you said there could be 30 or 40 others. Nothing's come of it.
The only thing is it's a little bioscope at the moment, for the right reasons.
Or is this kicking for touch, a delaying game? Something is being done.
No. The commissions legally, because we are a constitutional republic, have to be done. The issue is not the commission. The issue is the implementation. the
Now,
outcome.
who's responsible for not implementing
Government.
this? Is it the justice system? Like,
No, it's government.
Shamila Bhatt mentioned, she hasn't got the resources, and
Yeah, but it's government.
Yeah.
So everything comes down to government. So let's come back and
So
dissect.
government is failing to implement the recommendations of the commissions.
I wouldn't say they're failing. What I'd say is
They're reluctant.
No, they're not reluctant.
Or they're just turning a blind eye.
Well, everything comes down to money, and you'll find that a lot of stuff gets done, especially or said during political posturing, during political campaigns. Everybody says a lot of stuff without even looking at the budget. And we're saying to citizens, be very careful of politicians, because they're on the roadshow now and they'll be saying a lot of stuff. And I can tell you now, you'll still have the same problems because there's not enough money in the budget. And as long as unemployment is creeping, it's growing, your fiscus, in other words, your collection of cash gets smaller and smaller, and the only guys who get squeezed are those who have the wherewithal, the ability to pay. But let's come back to Shamas. Shamas is MKWANAZI. Shamas, in my view, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla, made the right call. Made the right call, because if he didn't make that call, nobody would have known the status. Two, Becky Tyler made some very telling comments, and one of them is that the withdrawal or the nullification of the PKTT was a bad move, and I'll tell you why it was a bad move. Johan Boysen was one of the leaders of the Cato Manor, which was part of that PKTT, which was dealing with political killings. The courts have ruled against government. Government is paying hundreds of millions of rands for a decision one guy cared. It wasn't Mkhunu. It wasn't Mkhunu. It was people before that. So my point is that government is so much of a monolith that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. That's the first issue. The second issue you've raised is, does Mkhunu Senzo has he abused his power, etc., etc.? No, he hasn't. Everything is opaque. Everything is vague, right? You've seen deputy ministers come; they don't even know their roles. It's not Mkhunu's job to give them their roles. It's a constitutional, parliamentary, legislative. It's like deputy city managers. It's not now suddenly the head of the department's role to determine how people or what they should do. No, the head of the department doesn't pay them. Budgets are drawn up by the legislature. It's a legislature's job to deal with those issues. It's not Mkhunu. MKWANAZI made the right call. Whether he wore the wrong clothing or not, that's irrelevant. And that's where Kachalia is, for want of a very good expression, is fuffing around. Right? We're not sitting at Witsak University. We're dealing with crime. We're dealing with policing. We're dealing with real issues of murder, corruption. And MKWANAZI, in our language, Shamas, he did the right thing. He did what South Africa needed. He must be commended. And whether these commissions come up with whatever they come up, he's got the response he wanted. And he must be commended.
Now, do you think it was politically driven, or he just had a conscience to consider and bring it up because he was fed up of the hierarchy not talking about these things?
Well, let's take two steps back. I mean, when we talk about politically driven, I mean, political driven is like saying how long is a piece of string. Everything in life is political. Everything. Citizens are paying tax. It's political. Citizens are paying VAT. It's political. Now we're being told our license plates are going to be changed. It's political. Why are we changing them? Because somebody decided, or some political task team, or whatever you want to call them, decided to change number plates. It's never happened in the history of this province. So since the 1960s, it's always been ND. Now we have to change number plates. So all these things are just a way of taxing ordinary people, and it's nonsense. Two, whether MKWANAZI is going to join MK or what, I mean, MK is now being drawn into something which has got nothing to do with it. It may well be, but it may well not be. So speculation also has its own dynamics. The issue is that Senzo is still a member of parliament. His party has done nothing about it yet. Maybe they will. That's the dynamics of the system. As taxpayers, what's the challenge in this country at the moment? We're sitting in extremely high unemployment. Our people are suffering. They've got no houses. They're getting blindfolded and bull dusted with 50% reduction in this reduction. It doesn't solve the problem. The problems are is that the citizenry of this country needs a Marshall Plan to tackle all the issues, and that rests with the state. And Durban City Council is part of the state because it's part of the local government sphere, and the provincial government, which again I must commend that there's some stability. I must commend Mpamba with the DA and the ANC. They're trying to do a good job. We can see change, but it's not enough. Change must happen at the cold face of earnings. It's not happening at earnings. You can come with all the bull dust that you want. People need to eat. People need to live in proper houses. They don't get that. But coming back to MKWANAZI, fully supported, 100%. His issue is now the president acceded. That's why I call the commission. 2, Mkhunu, whether he has a case to answer or a case not to answer, let's let the Madlanga Commission determine that. Whether Sbia Sotoba has a case, it's not for us to make that determination. We don't have those qualifications. A retired judge will make that decision, and he'll determine whether there is a case for him to be not suspended, expelled, or for Sbia to be expelled, or alternatively, whether MKWANAZI has gone beyond his powers that are allocated to him. Those are issues that will come out of the commission. I thank you.
Thanks. IMTIAZ, make a few comments before I get to Hassan.
Very, very quickly on this whole MKWANAZI Madlanga issue. When elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. And we're tending to be the grass. We must understand that we're looking for a definitive answer. Through the Madlanga Commission, we're expecting at the end there to be a judgment. This. Let's look at the impact it's already created. The suggestive nature of what is happening, the comments being made, a minister is not beyond reprieve. You can't say now a minister is untouchable. He's touchable. He's been touched. And he's been touched by a provincial commissioner. That's change in itself. He's been suspended. That's change in itself. Sibia and all of these people are getting basically hung in front of ad hoc committees and Madlanga commissions. That is suggestive change in itself. And it's reflective already in your local station. It already stops corruption, because if your provincial commissioner is taking a brave stance for his political killing task teams, who's advising him to say, we are being disbanded because we found X, Y, and Z. And he's taken a stance as a leader of his organization within this province, rightfully so. What does it speak to the district commissioner who in this district that says, my leader says no corruption? How can I be corrupt, number one? And how can I allow anyone, including a station commander, a constable, or anyone to be corrupt? So automatically, you see, on last week, Monday, we were called in. National came down to do research with 10 members of the CPF. What's your problem with the police? Be honest with us. And we gave it to them. And they said, right, this goes to a ministerial committee to bring change. We can't deal with this. We can't deal with this as community. We can't be whistleblowers. We can't speak about this. We can't speak about corruption. We get intimidated. All of those things come out. Now, that is change. But the normal man at home, because he's not the grass, he can't see us fighting those battles. You understand? So all I'm saying is, don't expect there to be a dossier saying, this one must be fired, that one must go to jail for 20. It's not going to happen. That's not the change. Like Imran said, right? It goes to the committees within Parliament to say, how do we now change the laws? What do we do about you've mentioned already lifestyle audits. Kachalia has already come in with lifestyle audits. So if you go and you do a lifestyle audit on your local station commander who's earning 80 or 90,000 rand a month and he's driving a Lamborghini, there's a problem. So if those lifestyle audits starts high up in the ministry, it's going to roll down. It might take a year, it might take two, but the suggestive nature of change is already there. The opening of these files is important. The bringing forth of these arguments is important. And this is what brings change.
Not entirely. Not entirely. Not entirely true. And I'll tell you why it's not entirely true. Because lifestyle audits, by definition, haven't came suddenly because Kachalia walked through the door. It's not true. They've been talking about lifestyle audits since Mandela was president. So what I'm saying is, let's not go into too much posturing. This must happen, correct? Shamase, MKWANAZI is correct. Senzo has got a good case to answer. He's made his defense. And so is Tele. And so is Kachalia. The fact is, it doesn't put anything on the table for ordinary people. And I'll leave that to my colleague, HASSAN MOTALA, because the state of the South Africa is about economics. Malanga Commission is all a little bioscope. We know these things exist. We know you get stopped by the police, you pay a bribe, you move. We know these things. We know you go into police station, files are disappearing. We know that stuff.
And it's still continuing.
And it's still continuing with stories of lifestyle audits. It's not going to happen. Power rests with ordinary citizens. We can't tell them what to do. All I can say to them is be careful of politicians, because they come, they say a lot of stuff, they move, they get what they want, then tomorrow things remain the same. That's all I say.
Your point is that it might not necessarily be the change that we're looking at, because a lot of guys know how to manipulate the system to earn that extra buck. I want to bring in Hassan, because we've got about 20 minutes left. There's a major investment boost taking place in Msunduzi. It's a municipality that's failed us, Hassan. They're under administration, and more than R1 billion in investment pledges have been earmarked for infrastructure development projects for the Msunduzi municipality alone. Now, if the pledges made at the recent KwaZulu-Natal Investment Conference materialize, the landscape of KZN Midlands is set to undergo a major transformation in infrastructure and see the creation of 2,000 job opportunities, which my friend Samuel is talking about, that with these kind of investments, you can stimulate the economy and create job opportunities. Hassan, I know the markets have taken a bit of a dip now, and the rand has gone to about 1750. Perhaps you just want to comment on, because there's a lot of development projects that are taking place throughout the country. I know the Western Cape is ahead of all the other provinces, but I think ETHEKWINI is one area where a lot of investments are coming in the North Coast, and then PM Berg people are wanting to get into the Midlands. Perhaps you just want to comment, is the investor confidence back in South Africa?
Sure. So I think South Africa, in terms of what's happening around the world, South Africa slowly has started to see some positive momentum coming through in terms of investment. Surprisingly, KZN has actually seen and is starting to see a pickup in terms of fixed investment. I'll give you examples. So there's been announcements over the last year or so in terms of massive property-related investments, and it has been taking place now. Started over the last 2 years or so, but it has started. But you've seen, for example, there was a sort of a property summit and investment summit that took place in the past week or two, where around 90-odd billion was talked about in terms of investment. Where are we seeing it happen? If you're driving along the North Coast, You're seeing a huge amount of investment taking place there, whether it's Sibaya, Salta, those areas. Massive amounts between Amshlanga all the way past Belito. There's a huge amount of investments taking place there. You've got the Club Med investment, which will sort of finalize and come on stream in June, July next year, will open up. That's been a 1.5-2 billion rand investment. You're also taking place, as you highlighted, investments in certain of the midland areas. So you're slowly starting to see an uptick in terms of that as well. Obviously, the challenges that we're still facing in some of these investments alike still relates around to the construction mafia or this. There are those challenges that are still creeping here and there, and those need to be addressed. Similarly, we have issues around the water-related issues as well. But what we are seeing is that there is an uptick, and Western Cape and Cape Town is no longer just the only place where people are focusing, both foreigners and local, in terms of investment. Historically, Cape Town has obviously been the blue-eyed boy and it's been at the forefront in terms of massive amount of investment. But you have seen KZN slowly picking up and taking up the mantle, and you're starting to see that coming through and will have some positive effect. Joburg's got its challenges, and it remains that because of the city has been really badly managed through the maladministration and the like over the last 10 years. So it'll take some time before. But I think KZN surprisingly is emerging as a potential, sort of potential hotspot in terms of economic activity picking up, going over the next few years or so. Secondly, I think a couple of things to highlight. While we've seen the stock markets being pretty strong, we've also seen some corporate activity taking place. So over the past year, we've had Barlow World, one of our big corporates, being taken out by a Saudi company for over 20 billion rands. So that's investment that's come into the country, that has come in, foreign exchange coming into the country, and with the result potentially for further investment in terms of the corporate sector in that particular sector. Secondly, yesterday, you had a company called Optasia, which is an AI-related company founded by a Lebanese-Nigerian businessman, listed on the JSE. First time you've had one of a large tech-related company in a long time that has listed on the JSE with a market cap of over 23 billion rands. Again, very good news in terms of a large tech-related company listing on the JSE. Again, the potential in terms of job creation, but again, there's economic activity and benefit in terms of our financial and investment markets as well. And then I think you are seeing, for example, Pepco has announced a 1.7 billion acquisition in terms of buying out some of these existing companies like Legit and certain others. They're buying out other brands. With the result, you're seeing some increase in activity by both local investors and also foreign investors coming into the country. So I think it's good signs, and you are seeing that. Where we have seen some negative impact is that you've seen that the impact of the tariffs are slowly starting to come through, and it's impacting sectors like the motor sector and the agricultural sector to some extent as well. And I think that will still play out over the next couple of months. But we are countering that with the likes of increasing exports to China on the agricultural side and the Middle East as well. So we are starting to see some benefit from that. I think from the activity and the economic perspective, next week, November 12th, Minister of Finance, Minister MKWANAZI, will be coming out with his midterm budget. I think there'll be some slightly positive feedback. While we've had a challenging environment, I think he'll have a slightly positive outlook relative to what he had talked about in February, because we've had a very, very strong boom in the mining sector, particularly the gold and platinum sectors. And the benefit of that is that the tax receipts that will be coming through from the gold and the platinum companies hopefully should help in terms of addressing some of our budget deficits, which we've had some challenges at. I'm hoping to see some benefit from that, and maybe a reduced deficit in terms of what the minister announces come through. The other benefit we've seen this month, fuel prices. 50 cents that came through last night, at midnight last night, and with the result 50 cents declines. And we've seen over the last year, petrol prices are down double digits. So the benefit of transport costs getting lower, the benefit that stable electricity, you're seeing the benefit in terms of small and medium enterprises now operating at least at a more efficient level and a more stable level. And I think what will happen is when you're seeing the likes of the mining sector doing well, there's a flowing effect that starts to flow through in terms of the consumer sectors, the banking sectors. And I think that over the next 6 to 12 months, hopefully, I'm still hopeful we may get another 2 rate cuts, maybe another quarter and another quarter over the next 6 months. If we get that another 0.5% that comes through, that lays the foundation again for further, impact in terms of consumer spending, but also other increase in economic activity for 2026. So I think there is some positive momentum coming through, and hopefully it lays the foundation for some improvement in terms of economic growth going into 2026.
Thank you, Hassan, for some very important information you're sharing with us. Before I ask Samuel to wrap up, we're running out of time. Just read a WhatsApp. People are hurtful. MKWANAZI did the right thing. There was no other choice. Had he chose any other route, it would have been buried under the mattress. So people are saying that, it's good he exposed what's going on. At least that, caused a bit of a reaction from the president. And hopefully, there will be some improvements. Samuel seems to be doubt. Samuel, you want to conclude?
I still, it's not a doubt, it's a fact. I mean, if they haven't done anything for 10 commissions, what's going to change? So that's factual. Two, allow me to say to Hassan, I think the points Hassan makes are valid. I think there's a lot of positivity, but I think we need to translate it into actuality. And actuality is telling us that we're only going to grow at just over 1% in comparison to everybody else. So in comparison to other people in our market, emerging markets, which still makes us not a viable investment option in the emerging market sector. Two, somebody asked me a question last week that KZN had 80 billion rand worth of pledges, investment pledges. And I'm saying to the listeners, an investment pledge could be anything from I'm pledging to invest, but I'll only put the money in 2 years' time. So journalists and populists very nicely like to cocoon and make it look sugarcoat stuff. We want to know what the actual investments are. One, and how do they translate into jobs? Two, at the moment, it's factual again. Unemployment is still increasing, albeit it's going at a slower rate. Two, our people are still living on streets, living in houses with roofs that are open or leaking. Something needs to change, and all we're saying is, I think we're on the right trajectory. I said to IMTIAZ, I can see a major difference in Durban compared to 2 years ago. Durban is definitely, and one must commend Ramaphosa, because he leads the ETHEKWINI task, what they call a prevention.
There's an improvement in service.
Major improvement. But the issue is not the service delivery, which is one aspect. The issue is jobs. The issue is disposable. The issue is disposable income, Hassan. Money in the pocket, because that's what drives the economy. Real money. People want to see tangible money. People want to see housing. I'm involved in housing. I know what I'm talking about. People want to see jobs, housing, growth, economic activity. And we don't want to see another ArcelorMittal, because again, with no disrespect, we're not sitting in here to attack government, because that's not our job. We have to give an opinion. An opinion must be factual so that people can say, okay, that was a good opinion and that was a bad opinion. So we're not here to try and pull everybody down. So we must put that as a qualifier. But what we're saying is, we want to be part of a growing South Africa. Every one of us in the room, we all live in this country. We all want to see growth. We all want to see our people prosperous. And we're calling on the powers that may be. Whether they come through MKWANAZI, whether they come through Madlanga, whether they come through some of the propositions that IMRAN SUBRATHIE makes, which are fair propositions, so it's not a criticism of him. The only issue we say to SUBRATHIE is we hope that while you're there, you can get them implemented. That's all we're saying.
Thanks, Sam. The listener just wrote in and say, Salams, love your show. It helps South Africans a lot. We need this type of shows on your program. I listened to one of my shows back in 2019, and a lot of comments we made then, the truth of it came out when we consider, it was during COVID time and there were other political issues. But anyway, we need to wrap up. It's already 10 past 10. And we covered, some analysis on the MKWANAZI inquest, the Madlanga Commission. We did an analysis of the municipality debt relief program, which was important to our consumers or sort of tenants and owners out there. And we spoke about, the development projects, investment boosts. We spoke about unemployment, which is responding to investments. We're going to touch further on crumbling municipalities, which is under the spotlight, because we know municipal elections are about a year around the corner. And it's imperative that we look at the, status of the different municipalities. The Auditor General has once again indicated that, he's qualified 80% of the audit reports in the municipalities, predominantly run by the ANC. So I think the president, as well as the mayors of these different municipalities, are taking these reports very seriously. And as you mentioned, Samuel, we beginning to see improvement in service delivery, but the role of ratepayers becomes very, very important here, as well as civic organizations. And we cannot stress it any further that, the communities need to become civic active, and they must start raising issues and contact the municipal departments and hold municipal officials and councillors accountable. As IMTIAZ volunteered to assist, we're going to have more programs coming in. We're going to chat about topical issues. Inshallah, in that way, we'll get the desired outcomes, because as Samuel mentioned, we all residents of this country. We want the country to improve. We want jobs to be created, housing opportunities for people. Municipalities must do what they're expected to do, because the ratepayers are paying their rates and taxpayers are paying their taxes, so they expect provincial and national government to improve. But on a closing note, we have to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control of the entire universe, and we must do our way, but and also obey Allah's commandments as shown to us by Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. And all communities need to turn to the Almighty. But let's become honest and, citizens that care for our country and be patriotic, so that we can improve service delivery. Until next Wednesday, that's the end of News in Focus for tonight. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
गश से हमें उठाए क्यों, रुखसत से काफिला कशार, गश से हमें उठाए क्यों, सोते हैं उनके साए में, सोते हैं के साए में।